Have you ever played Battletoads for the NES? It's a pretty challenging game. The first level is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. The second level has you rappel into a canyon. The third level appears to be similar to the first in gameplay, but then you reach a pair of bikes. The auto-scrolling madness has begun. This is the Turbo Tunnel, and there are many things that show up for the ride, like walls, barriers, ramps on the ground, ramps in the air, platforms to jump to without using ramps, and a few enemies. The penultimate section has you jumping from platform to platform by pressing the A button at the right time. The final section accelerates your bike to a faster speed, forcing you to dodge walls with quick presses on the controller. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you call this game Look for the Bikes and consider it beaten once you find them. And this is one of those areas in games where you wonder, how can I get past this, even if I have to cheat? Maybe someone hands you a Game Genie and shares the Battletoads Infinite Lives code. Thanks, I can watch myself fail a lot more often now. Infinite lives may not be enough. If you could choose to change the Turbo Tunnel somehow, what would you do? An obvious idea is, well, can we slow it down? Well, yes we can, but slowing everything down breaks the level's design and renders it unbeatable. What do we change if we want to make the level easier to beat? Let's dissect the Turbo Tunnel's design and figure out how to make it easier. I'll share a few of my ideas and welcome yours via the comments. We'll take a look at some code along the way, but the focus for this video is more about design and less about syntax. First up, let's talk speed. I wrote a script to place an overlay containing the fraction and decimal values for the current speed and put it at the top of the screen. Hop on the bike and it accelerates from 0 to 8. It holds this speed either until you crash or reach a checkpoint. The bike's speed is coded based on continuous acceleration, and that acceleration stops once the speed reaches one of two limits contained in the ROM. Reaching a checkpoint immediately drops the speed to 2, and then the acceleration logic kicks in until it is limited, once again, by the appropriate speed limit. If you look further down in the code, two numbers stand out that have not been interpreted as instructions by the debugger. They are the speed limits. Let's mess with them. The first byte in that block, a value of 8, is our speed limit when we start the tunnel. So, one Game Genie code is all you need to slow the bike down. Now, the tunnel is like a lazy Sunday drive. While it might be amusing to turn the Turbo Tunnel into the Tunnel of Chill, by slowing it down, you will literally run into a small problem: the ramps. Without hitting the ramp at a fast enough speed, the bike can't reach the next platform. Even dropping maximum speed from 8 to only 7 still reduces the ramp jump distance too much in order to make the landing. So a speed decrease alone without further code modification is out of the picture, at least for most of the tunnel. Returning to the code, there is that second constant, a decimal value of 12. This is the second speed limit, and it kicks in during the final segment. When I start the final segment, the bike speed accelerates to 12 as I pass the first few walls. 12 is pretty difficult. It takes a lot of practice to maneuver at this speed. If you've played the Japanese version of the game, this segment is a lot easier, because the second speed limit is only 9. In fact, the Japanese version makes several changes to the Turbo Tunnel to nerf the difficulty level, including changes to the area where you have to jump across platforms without ramps. The Japanese version has ramps that do the jump work for you. The difficulty of the final segment in the American release comes from both the acceleration period and the maximum speed of 12. Your input presses on the controller have to accelerate evenly and then match the final bike speed. Let's reduce the secondary speed limit in the US release to make it easier. 1 byte, 1 Game Genie code. Pick your speed. Give this one to your friends. The lowest possible speed without further code modification is 6. Let me explain. The Turbo Tunnel is split into small areas that I will call blocks. I placed the block number beneath the current bike speed at the top of the screen. It starts at 0, reaches 6 when you find the bikes, and then increases at a fast rate as your bike moves through the tunnel. The speed limit jump from 8 to 12 occurs early in the final segment when you reach block 221. As mentioned, whenever you hit a checkpoint, the game slows you down to a speed of 2. You hit the checkpoint to start the final segment around block 218. Your bike accelerates toward 8 as usual until the speed limit change occurs at block 221. If you put in a Game Genie code to change the second speed limit to 5, it isn't going to work. You've already achieved a speed of 6 when you reach block 221. This means there is no speed limit. So, best to stick with the number between 6 and the original 12. I feel like this change alone is really helpful when it comes to completing the turbo tunnel, as the final wall dodge sequence is pretty challenging. One Game Genie code can make a huge difference. But what if you need more help? What if the hopping sequence in the penultimate section is too difficult? Now things start to get complicated. If you attempt to slow down the earlier part of the tunnel, the ramps don't work. We could change the vertical jump velocity of the ramps, but there are different types of ramps. Here's the layout of the entire tunnel, and here are the ramps. There are 5 different types of ramps, and their vertical jump velocity varies from 1 to 3. They would all need to be compensated, and that is 5 Game Genie codes alone. We could change jump velocity, like for when you jump by pressing the A button, so you could jump higher and stay in the air for a longer period of time. This would potentially just let you skip the ramps, but the timing of landing after the larger gaps is going to be a problem. Plus, jumping across those platforms in the penultimate section requires precise timing for jumping and landing. We could also change gravity, however, just like jump velocity, the timing of the landing window becomes less precise. If we leave speed alone, I suppose we could try to eliminate pit deaths and make the walls and barriers either destructible or remove them entirely. I'm not sure how many Game Genie codes that would take. I elected not to pursue that path. Actually, that's not true. I looked into it just for a bit, for the pit deaths. 2 things about implementing a vertical screen wrap hack on the turbo tunnel. Number 1, it kind of makes things more difficult because you have to dodge incoming walls, barriers, and more after falling from the sky, with additional acceleration due to gravity thanks to the greater distance traveled. Number 2, it shouldn't actually work. In fact, technically it doesn't work. I modified 2 bytes for this one, you can try it yourself, that have to do with vertical positioning of various objects, not just the toads on the bikes. So what happens to be just fine for a little while turns into a bit of a problem when the enemies that drop walls from the sky show up. Uh-oh. By the way, the level doesn't end, it just enters an infinite loop. The vertical velocity and vertical positioning logic is shared by, well, probably anything that is affected by gravity. Needless to say, we're not going to use this one. In fact, you can't even play the game if you use the code from the start. It turns into a bit of place your bets for which of these 2 enemies wins, as they both have friendly fire and you are nowhere to be seen. Alright, let's get back to the turbo tunnel. The design of this level is tuned to the timing of the run. The timing is key. If you change speed, jumping, gravity, or ramps, you upset the level's synergy. That is the challenge we face if we alter even the smallest thing. If you look at the Japanese version, they altered the second speed limit for the last segment and altered the level layout for all the previous segments. We could change the US ROM so the course matches the Japanese ROM, but that is ROM hack territory rather than Game Genie territory. So, what I propose is kinda stupid, but it works. First, let's pull back the block number checkpoint for the second speed limit upshift from block 221 here during the last segment to block 56 back here during the second segment. Here's the code. All we do is change this hex value of DD to 38. This moves the second speed limit check to an area near the first ramp you hit. So around the time you hit the ramp, your speed accelerates to 12. That's code 1. Okay, code 2. This is pretty wild. Recall the positions of the various ramp types. I'm interested in modifying the vertical launch velocity of a single ramp type, and the locations of interest for that type are in these 2 places. Now what I want to do is alter this ramp type's vertical launch velocity from 2 to 35. Yeah, this does what you think it does. The problem with this change is that while you cannot see your bike on the screen, you can still collide with the obstacles. Maybe you screen wrap and emerge from the bottom, but the player graphics are intentionally hidden. I didn't investigate. Because of this, any jumping needs a bit of steering to find a safe spot, steering that you have to do without knowing where you are. Maybe we could use that third Game Genie code spot to disable collision detection, but that's no fun. So with both the speed limit block change and the ramp launch boost in place, here's what you do. Start the run as usual and reach the first checkpoint. Some of you may have problems even on the first segment. If so, just keep practicing. Once you reach the first checkpoint, line up your bike so it falls between the score and the hearts. You'll hit the jump. Hold right. Once you get past these two barriers, pull back by pressing left. Now you're going to have to wait for a bit. Keep your eyes in this area. This might be the most difficult part. Once you see your shadow, maneuver to the same place as earlier, between the score and hearts. You'll have a short bit of time to land and maneuver, and then you have to almost immediately jump to hit this ramp. Make sure you jump. Once you're airborne, pull down and left immediately. Wait once again. You're going to fly past all of those crazy walls and come down just past the first barrier jump. Count 1 second, jump, and jump again. Done. Level complete. So this was almost a bypass. Navigating the first area normally isn't bad. It's weird to have to make a tutorial for this cheat, but it is necessary because of how we put this game in a broken state for a short period of time. And if the player fails at some point during the modified run, I'm not sure if recovery is possible. Maximum speed will be 12 instead of 8, so the tunnel will be even more difficult. Is this easier? Is it harder? This method doesn't require many controller presses, but the super jumps require rather tight timing. This solution of sorts certainly thinks outside the box. Good luck. How about something a little more subtle? The game provides an extra life for every 100,000 points. Each digit in the score has its own byte in RAM. This area in code handles rolling up the score. It also checks to see if the highest digit rolled over. If so, it rewards an extra life. While it would take some work to alter which digit is checked for rollover, it requires minimal work to increase the number added to your score as you ride the bike. Normally, the score rolls up 100 points every few frames during the bike ride. The digits for the bike roll-up score are stored in the ROM just underneath the roll-up logic, 000100, 100 points. So what we could do is raise the score to 1100 points every few frames by altering this byte here. This means the extra lives rack up a lot faster, and this lets us have more attempts in the turbo tunnel. You'll also notice the max out logic in code. Whenever your score hits 999999, it stays there. You can't roll it up any higher. What we could do is instead of setting it to all 9s, set it to all 0s, so it does roll over. Rolling 0s won't award an extra life, but the score can continue to roll after that and rack up extra lives as usual. Of course, there are easier ways to cheat using extra lives than this. As mentioned earlier, there is an infinite lives code, for instance. But maybe you just want to be able to pick up some additional chances while in the turbo tunnel. So how would you change the turbo tunnel to make it easier? Do these options help? Give them a try and let me know. Please share this video with others that you think might enjoy it. I also have a Patreon available if you would like to see more videos like this one in the future. Thanks for watching.